right, and we're live. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy June 2nd. Good evening. I'm so happy to be here with you. My name is Daniela, in case I'm meeting some of you for the first time, and I'm here with Christopher. Say hi, Christopher. We can see you.
They can't though. Hi everyone.
And we're here with a very dear friend, Thomas Edward. Good evening, Thomas.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Oh, I've been so looking forward to our conversation. Um, so let me just open up my phone. There we go. Hi, Christina. Good evening, love. Thanks for joining us live. And whoops. Thank you for friends who are joining us on replay as well. All right. Well, Thomas, first of all, how was your day?
It was an unusual day, sort of. It was a great day. We had some beautiful weather here. I just finished up a painting yesterday, so I'm kind of in between paintings. I'm taking a day off.
Well, let's dive in. Let's share with everyone a little bit about one of your soul's passions, and that is as a Tibetan Thangka painter. Someone may not know what that means, so why don't we start out with Exhibit A behind you?
Hmm. Yeah. So could I just explain that a little bit?
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Tibetan Thangka painting is a sacred art form that usually depicts Buddhas, bodhisattvas, deities, and sometimes historical figures. And it's framed in like a hanging scroll. So it's framed in fabric, usually with the most elegant brocade that you can find. And it's really made to be rolled up and carried with you to all the important places that you go. Um, but it's an object that helps you, an object of devotion for focus of your devotion. If you're a practitioner of Tibetan Buddhism, then it can be something that you actually incorporate in your meditation, or just something to remind you of your practice and your perspective and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So, Thomas, tell us a little bit about, if you will, your journey to where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about your passion for art in your childhood. Like, how did your incredible, unique journey lead you to discovering there's a Tibetan Thangka painter within you?
Uh, I think I would say that I've always been an artist. I've always been making things, and with whatever material I had, I've always been making things. But I think I would start with the fact that when I was a little kid, my father, for some reason, enjoyed collecting encyclopedias. And I love to read, and these encyclopedias had little pictures in them.
I
And
remember, was it the my when I don't know if we're in the I'm in my 50s, but I grew up where the encyclopedia was in the grocery store. And
ah,
each
yeah,
week, each week they would put the next volume out, right? And so my parents would come home with the next volume. I mean, way to keep you shopping at the store, right? Who wants to be missing the R book?
right.
So yeah. I remember those. And when there was a photo with the thing you're looking up, it was like epic.
Yeah. So I remember that my dog is wanting to say hi. Come here.
Hi, Shadow. Hi, sweet baby.
So I remember that in these encyclopedias there were little tiny illustrations sometimes, and one day I came across these illustrations of these Hindu deities,
Mhm.
and they had many arms, and some of them had many heads. Some of them had animal heads, and some were riding animals. And I was just absolutely fascinated. I had never seen anything like that on TV. or in any book. You know, I was very young. I don't know. It's probably maybe 6 or 7 or somewhere around there. At least, yeah, probably 6. So I saw these deities and I just thought that they were the coolest thing ever because I'd never seen anything like that. I just wanted to know everything that I could about that. It was so unique. So actually, I started reading about that and I was just fascinated because for me, it might have been the first time which I glimpsed Asian culture, which seemed like an entirely different perspective on life. They certainly had things to offer and ideas to offer, which I had never come across in my 6-year-old life, you know. So I was fascinated, and I learned all I could about that, and then I think when actually, I'm not sure what year that was, but I remember probably the next stage in the story is my aunt, who was kind of like my mother. She sort of raised me on holidays and summer. She loved to collect National Geographic magazine,
Mhm.
and I just loved uh, to consume every article of that. And I remember there was one particular um, um, uh, what do you call it? One
An
particular
issue.
magazine, one month, in 1980, and on the cover was this a young Tibetan woman,
Mhm.
and I had never heard anything. I don't think I'd heard very much, maybe nothing about Tibet. So I was leafing through it, and it was an article um, mainly on the treasures of the Potala Palace.
Mhm.
So they were showing, they were incredible, like full page and like double length pictures of these incredibly ancient statues from the Potala Palace. And there was one of Avalokiteshvara, the thousand armed bodhisattva, the statue. And I was just overwhelmed. I was just awestruck. I just never seen anything that incredibly unique and magnificent and strange and wonderful. I just had to know everything about it. So I suppose that was when I just sort of dove into finding anything I could read about Tibet, anything in the library. I think somewhere around there is when I started going to the college library, maybe
Mhm.
with an adult or something like that, because the Cortland Free Library didn't have a lot on Tibet, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was also around that time that a good family friend who lived in Ithaca, New York, which is where Namgyal Monastery is, um, she would visit quite often, and she was a very special friend. And she talked a lot about Tibet. She talked about human rights, and she talked about Tibet, and she talked about the Dalai Lama. And I never had really heard much about the Dalai Lama, but she was just really fascinated and very educated about those issues. And I think she really sparked my interest. And it was around that time, I think also 1979 or 1980, that His Holiness actually did visit.
Mhm.
And she had quite an amazing, uh, wonderful visit with the Dalai Lama. That's a story I can tell another time. But anyway, she really inspired me because I really just fell in love with her intelligence and um, her culture. You know how cultured she was, and just the beautiful soul that she was. She was very spiritual, and just very wonderful. So I think around that time is when I painted my first Tara, and I still have that Tara. I think actually I was around 14 years old or something like that. And so I just kind of like learned all I could. I didn't have a lot of resources. And when I was probably around 16 years old, I started actually making smaller Thangkas. And I was painting Tara. I was painting white Tara and green Tara, and I was framing them in brocade too. And they were just small little Thangkas like this. Um, and then I went, I, I continued learning about Tibetan art, and then I went off to college. And I remember the second year I was there, I lived in a suite, and I had amazing suite mates. They were all hippies, and so we formed this beautiful hippie band. But one of them was really interested in Asian art, and his girlfriend loved Buddhist art. So he actually commissioned me, gave me my first commission to paint a white Tara. So I painted a white Tara and I framed it in brocade, and that was my first commission. And I have a photograph of that. It's really sweet. So that was quite encouraging. So I finished my college education, and I went into teaching, and then I went into social work, and I did the adult thing, and then I was living in Ithaca, and really became inspired again by the Tibetan culture and the love of Tibetan culture and the support that artists have in Ithaca. So I think it sort of reignited my desire to make it much more a part of my life,
Hmm.
because there were so many people showing interest in all that I had done.
You
And
you really had it was more than encouragement. It sounds like it kept showing up at every turn.
yeah, it was, yeah, really fortuitous. Uh,
Hmm.
so around that time, I actually decided to start producing some paintings and prints of paintings. And also I was doing like some Japanese artwork. I always loved Japanese artwork. And I decided to join the art festivals in Ithaca. And I was just kind of like flabbergasted because I sold everything that I had. And I like sold out on the first day. Well, almost. I had very little left for the second day. And then I did that again the next year. And just a lot of people, so many people were showing interest. And from there, I think I started showing at a few of the shops on the commons, and just got a lot of support and started selling. And then I decided to move to Buffalo. I want to live in a bigger city, and see, what that sort of life was like. You know, um, so I moved into Allentown, Buffalo, and also was showing and selling there, and was starting to be selling like on a regular basis because I was showing like in cafes and small galleries, and like every single day I was selling a painting or more. So I just spent more and more time painting. I still had like a full-time career at that time, but I was still painting all that I could. Um, and then I actually became ill with cancer. So a whole lot of things changed, and my lifestyle changed, and I ended up coming back home to Cortland, where my family was, to heal and to recover. And I did wonderfully. I had the support of my family, um, it's almost like I had a second chance on life. And I had done pretty much everything that I had wanted to do before. I had the education, I had the jobs that I wanted to have. And I had, a couple of close calls there in my healing. And I just really came to the point where I decided that I wanted this to be my passion, the final chapter of, my what I'm offering life. You know.
So let's lean in there, Thomas. You have a magic wand, okay? And you can create, do, be anything you want. You've gotten this second gift of a chapter of life. And so paint a picture for us. What is your life continue to become about? What is paint this glorious picture of your precious life for us.
Hmm. Ah, well,
No limits and no restrictions, right? And you don't have to figure out how. It's just your heart's and soul's most astounding yearning.
mm-hmm. Uh, like the final goal, or like my general.
Yeah, just what do you want your life to be about? And how do you want to use this precious life that you have for what purpose, for what intent?
I know,
And how will people benefit and how will you feel your fulfillment?
okay. Yeah. So I back up just a little bit, and I really let me say, like in my childhood, I was a natural artist, and I always that was my passion always, but I never really received the encouragement. I had a little bit of support, but I never really believed that it was something that was of value, or I never understood the depth of value that it had until my adult years, when people really started to appreciate the paintings and talk about like the effect that the paintings had on them. And it inspired, such peace and tranquility and just beauty, a sense of beauty and an appreciation. It helped them see perhaps beauty that, in a sense, that they have never really, their eyes hadn't been open to beauty. So, in other words, it was a way of like inspiring their a sense of, aesthetic appreciation. But also, I would say that, okay, so combining that with my spirituality, which was the biggest part of my life, um, I recognized how my spirituality had become like the foundation for me that had carried me through everything. And really, it was my joy, it's my greatest passion, and my greatest sense of peace and meaning. So I really just wanted to combine the two, and I'm stumbling for words here.
Oh no, it's okay. You're doing great.
If I think about the future, I have very clear ideas of what I would like to do. I guess what I'm saying is, it was such a blessing that I found this particular art form, because it's such a unique art form.
Yeah.
And I can go into that a little bit later, but it was exactly what I needed for me to um, pull everything together, my spirituality and my spiritual practice, um, developing life skills and discipline and planning and offering something of value to life, and also offering something that is inspirational. So I think that's what it is. I really wanted to offer something, a vision of something, a reflection of something that was truly inspirational to people in their lives, not necessarily religious, although it is a religious art form, but just the sheer beauty and the peace of it seemed to be something that inspired peace and tranquility and, those sort of qualities which not many people experience every day,
Yeah.
in their ordinary life. So,
Thomas, can I ask you a question about something you just shared? Can you describe a little bit how the process of creating a tanka is the Chenrezig behind you one of you painted this, yes?
yes,
So let's
yes.
so let's use this beautiful work of beauty and art and the deity Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion. So what is the process like for you when
Mhm.
when this is being created through you? And how is that also a very personal experience and knowing that it is for the benefit of many, and for the world?
Yeah, there's so much there. That's what it's all about, isn't it? So I guess I'll do it step by step. That's one way to answer that question. Um, okay, so the thing about this art form is it's hmm, it's as much right-brained as it is left-brained. It's
Mm.
as much creative as it is um, planned out.
Yeah.
There's so much structure which you might not be able to see, but are the structure is the foundation for the creativity and the creative expression. Um, so this painting here I did 2 years ago in Dharamshala, India. This was my class project for the spring. And so the traditional method, I could just take you through that. First of all, you choose the deity that you would like. And Chenrezig has always been, well, I chose Chenrezig because he really, he's the patron bodhisattva of Tibet, of Tibetan Buddhism. So I think that's mm, in, pretty much the most important deity to in Tibetan Buddhism. So I wanted to honor my first major Thangka with with that with that deity, with this deity. So you choose the deity, and then you have to make the canvas. Um, so everything is done completely traditionally. At the school that I went to, they follow the same method that they've been doing for almost 1,000 years. Um, so you make the canvas by you choose a piece of white cotton cloth that is 100% cotton, and you have a wooden frame, slightly larger than the canvas, and you cut out a piece of cloth a little bit smaller than the frame so it can fit inside. And then you have these metal rods that go on all edges of the cloth, and you sew the cloth to the metal rod all the way around like this. So it's almost like you're sewing a frame onto the cloth. And then you take that and you lace it to the frame. Okay. So you go all the way around, and what you're doing is you're stretching the cloth onto the frame.
Mhm,
And then you tighten it, and so it's very, very tight, like a drum.
mhm,
And then you have to prepare the gesso. Uh,
mhm,
you start with sometimes powdered marble or clay, like purified clay. And in our class, we used a yellow clay that came from Dharamshala. And you use animal glue. So we used yak skin glue.
mhm,
So you mix the glue with the clay, and you make like a paste. It's like a paste, and you smear that all over the cloth, front and back, nice and evenly, and then you let it dry, and then you scrape it so there's no bumps in it, and then you polish it. So when you have the canvas that's polished, then you begin drawing the deity. And the thing about Tibetan iconography is it's a lot like technical drawing, because all the deities, they have exact proportions and measurements, and also gestures, like hand gestures and implements that they hold. So all of these things are part of a canon that are hundreds of years old. And so we have a graph, and we draw the graph on the canvas, and then we look at an example of the deity, and we draw that deity on the graph exactly the way that it is in the picture. so that everything is exactly the correct measurements and angles and proportions. And this is part of like the sacred art form of it, the iconography, is that they believe that like each deity is only represented usually just one way, so that it's like um iconic icon I don't know. Made It's an icon, basically. The image of the deity becomes an icon because it never changes. Uh,
Right. Like I can't see that well, but I just saw it's holding a lotus in its upper left, and I know that to be Chenrezig. There are a couple others that are white with several arms, so it, whittling it down, but it's always has that the pink lotus in that.
yeah, that's right. So yeah, each deity has certain things which make it absolutely recognizable and distinguishable from every other image. Um, so like what they hold in their hand, if it's a flower or if it's some sort of implement, what posture they're in, what gesture they're doing, their expression, and their color. So those sort of things really identify the deity so that there's no mistaking which deity that is. And so they believe that that is sort of like I kind of say like a sacred code or something, and then a code that transmits, they believe, the actual blessing and presence. It allows you like sort of to tune in to that exact frequency of compassion or wisdom that, and each deity, there are a few variations of each deity, um, and you can find the one that you feel most attracted to, that you can really tune into, basically. So so yeah, so then we draw the deity on the graph, and then and then we draw the environment. So, for example, there are different classes of deities. There are Buddhas, humans, bodhisattvas, um, dharmapalas or protectors, and then there are like semi-fierce figures, and then there are fierce figures. So each one, you want to create an environment that kind of reflects or mirrors that sort of energy. So actually, the environment is one part of the creative process where the artist can have free reign. The interesting thing, though, is about the environment is um, it's supposed to represent or have representatives of all five elements, so that the whole composition represents like a complete harmony of
Mhm.
all of the elements and the deity within the composition. So they generally say every environment should have water, should have a rock, it should have earth, and it should have uh, plants like a flower or a tree, and it should have clouds, and it should also have the sun and the moon in the sky.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. But there's so many levels of symbolism to it. So you draw once you finish drawing the composition, then you actually ink the sketch. So we use like a Japanese ink, I guess. So you ink the whole sketch very carefully with a very fine uh, paintbrush, and then you erase the pencil, and
Mhm.
then you begin painting. And there is an order to the parts that you paint. It's pretty interesting. It's like every single step of the process has an order.
Mhm.
There's an order to it. So when we begin painting, first we paint the sky or the heavens, and then we paint the water. So we paint the parts that are blue. So the sky and the water, and then we paint the earth, which is green. And basically, the fully traditional way is that you're supposed to complete the whole environment before you begin the deity, because you want to create a sacred space, a sacred place for for where you welcome the day, where you welcome the deity to honor your composition. So when it comes to the deity, each deity or each figure, I like to say, you can talk about them in conventional terms of deities and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and things like that, um, which is accurate. But I like to think of them as reflections of our highest aspiration. To they represent the qualities of our intrinsic nature or our Buddha nature. Our fully awake or naturally awake intrinsic essence. Our whole healed self. So I look at these figures as reflections or something that we can reflect upon as what we aspire for, what we admire and what we aspire for to cultivate within ourselves. So I like to say that it's really important how you view the sacred art. And I always suggest that you actually view a Thangka when you use it as a mirror. So I call them sacred mirrors, where it appears that there is a deity or an enlightened figure. But I suggest that people should view that is their aspiration. That is actually their true self. You know. Yeah.
Beautifully said, Thomas. Thank you. That's really beautifully said.
Yeah. So in the painting, I'm looking at a beautiful Tara in front of me. So I'm looking at that to kind of answer your question. Um,
Well,
so we,
before you go on further, can you share a little bit about the colors and your process
oh, yeah,
with
and that's
with
great.
making the paints?
Uh, See,
Let's
this is the whole thing is like every little aspect about Thangka art is full of ancient tradition and just so rich. Traditionally speaking, and in my school, we still do it this way. And it's quite uncommon these days, but we actually make the paints from minerals, from natural earth minerals and gemstones.
I think Thomas, one second, Christopher is going to screen share the malachite. You sent us a few pictures to share, so he'll pull those up.
Wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We actually, in my class, uh, yeah. So this is actually 24 karat gold. We also use 24 karat gold traditionally, and we make the gold paint from powdered gold. So this is my example of the gold paint that I used to paint this Chenrezig, actually. Yeah. So there we are making it. That's my teacher. He's using his finger. I was actually very afraid to do this. I had been thinking about doing it for a couple of years by myself, but I was afraid to waste the gold paint, you know? So
Yes.
actually my teacher helped me, and you get your fingers right in there.
Yeah, that's a good teacher, right? They're going to show you how. I totally respect that concern.
So this is a great picture of many of they look like gemstones I'm seeing here. Yeah, so on the upper left, looks like malachite and maybe turquoise. And then the lower left looks like azurite. And then lower right, the reddish ones are probably azurite. Azurite?
Hmm.
Uh, no. Cinnabar.
Okay.
Cinnabar. Yes. And then the Yellowstone there is probably yellow ochre.
Okay.
And then above that is like brown ochre.
Hmm.
And above that is either a gem, it's probably cinnabar as well. And then there is the white chunk. They use white clay
Mm.
or sometimes powdered shell. Uh,
Oh, okay. Oh, beautiful. And is there lapis, those little blue shards down there?
oh, yeah, there we go. Yes. Now I have to say something special about the lapis. The lapis is kind of something special that I do. Um, Lapis is well, relatively expensive
Mm,
or what you get from it.
mm,
Um, and I think maybe 3 years ago,
mm,
uh, I got the idea that I wanted to try to make paint with lapis lazuli, which
mm.
is what the Renaissance artists used to do. Um, uh, I actually started doing that a couple of years ago, and I mentioned it to my teacher and the students there. Um, and now I find fellow friends from the class and a few other artists since then are actually buying powdered lapis lazuli and using it. The point I was going to say is the reason I wanted to use lapis lazuli is because of the medicine Buddha. The
Yeah,
me
Christopher, let's pull that up. There we go.
There we go. So this is one of my latest completed paintings of the medicine Buddha. And this is actually painted with lapis lazuli.
Mm,
Um, and the medicine Buddha is called, one of his epitaphs is Lord of Lapis Lazuli Light.
mm,
So in the visualization, it's said that he he is a being of light, of lapis lazuli colored light, and
mm.
he emanates the healing blue light that is lapis lazuli colored. So he's often called the lapis lazuli Lord or
Mm,
Lord of Healing, something like that. So I had the idea that I actually wanted to use
yeah.
the gemstone lapis lazuli. Honestly, I hadn't heard about that being done before I decided to do it. Um, and it's quite difficult to use. It's a pain in the butt to paint with, actually.
There we go. You can see the hue really well on this image, this photo of it.
Yeah, that's something that I would like to share is that um, there's something about using gemstones, malachite, and especially lapis lazuli, that you really have to see it in person because there is nothing like the paint that is produced from lapis lazuli. It's almost iridescent. It shimmers and it has such a deep, rich hue that nothing else can simulate it.
It's
No other paint could even come close. It's actually a very powerful feeling. You you feel a power coming off from it, an energy coming off from it.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
there's something so deep and rich about that blue that it really does affect you, actually.
Thomas, let me ask a question that someone shared in the chat. It ties in perfectly where we are in the conversation. Ariana asks, have any of the deities that you've painted visited you while you were painting?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. Um, that's a good question. Uh, Sometimes as you know, I have an incredible dream life.
Mm,
And hmm, okay. I think this is how I would answer that. Sometimes, well, let me preface it with this. During the painting process, I do visualize the deity. So this is part of the sacred process that I follow, that I actually do chant the mantra and I do visualize the deity and I do dedication prayers before I even begin. And while I'm drawing and painting, I continue to say the mantra and to, hold the heart of bodhicitta, and, that all beings, and especially anyone who sees this, that their suffering be eased and that they be inspired to reawaken their true essence, or reconnect with their true essence, to free themselves from the grip of suffering. Um, so in my dreams, I wouldn't say that I've actually seen a deity appear as a deity, but I would say that this is what I would say. I do believe that the deities give me teachings in my dreams. And quite often I have very unusual dreams, um, with no other explanation than they could be embodying the deities.
Yeah.
So, that could be one way, but I would say that, quite often, or at least a few very memorable times, I've had incredible, what I call teaching dreams,
Mm,
where in essence I receive all of this knowledge and information, illumination in a sense, um,
mm,
perspectives that just really expand my way of seeing things. Maybe that I'm sure that they're related. That's how
mm.
I answer that. Yeah.
And Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it during the time period that you were painting the medicine Buddha that you had an interesting encounter with a doctor who gave you a sudden and unexpected 100% clean bill of health?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just gonna say maybe that also.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. See, this is my that's an excellent example. So, I feel that, to I don't really believe in the solid distinctions between, dream and waking life, between deities and other people. I think that it's all kind of like this dream sort of scenario where the divine intelligences can appear to us out of the blue. Uh,
What a great expression considering the topic.
Sure. Yeah. Uh, and just these bizarre things like the story that I shared with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Actually, the medicine Buddha has been a big part of my life and my journey, and I'm very thankful that it's requested quite often. Um, and yeah, just it really does coincide with my experiences and my journey. And that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ariana, for that, for your question. Um, there was a little bit of an interesting divine intervention that occurred that allowed for Thomas and Christopher and myself to even meet in this lifetime. Um, Friends, my dad crossed over in 2014, and he has just a really glorious way of sometimes directing me, and take a left here, go straight, take a right there, stop, keep stopping. And I saw a post one day on Facebook of someone saying they were really worried about leaving their dog because they were going on an adventure to paint in India for a month. And it was the first time that their dog and you're the mystery person in the story, were going to be separated for a great deal of time. And your heart was just, oh, I could feel the just the pain of that. You were just so worried. You're your sweet shadow. You just didn't know how he was.
Yeah, it was a terrible experience.
I know. And so I saw this post, friends, and what of course caught my eye first is Thomas's name. Thomas Edward is my dad's name as well. So when something arises in my field of awareness, that is that obvious, it gives me pause. And I had no idea that Thomas lived in Cortland. I I must have misheard because I told Christopher, I'm like, there's this guy, Thomas Edward in Portland. like Oregon. Like, I didn't have my listening ears on well enough. It was a little off. And they're like, oh, the Angels are by like, no, we're trying to say Cortland. And, and I'm like, well, we can find a helper in Portland. I'm like, Christopher, let's do this. And then I was looking on your Facebook page and I saw a brochure for a painting class that you were doing. And in that brochure, it said Thomas Edward of Cortland. So, to make a long story short, friends, we messaged back and forth. Thomas didn't know us from Adam. And now here's this lady in Ithaca saying, "Hey, would you like us to take care of your dog? We'll go get him and take care of him." And through a series of communications, we established a trusting relationship, and that's it was really it was sh my dad and your beautiful dog Shadow that was the catalyst for us meeting in this lifetime.
Yeah, I just, I can't express enough what, as for me as well, what a bizarre and unusual experience that was to have you contact me. This person that I had no idea who you were, and you were offering, such apparently genuine compassion and desire to help, and I was like, who the heck is this?
Do I trust them with my baby, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and thankfully, though, you and I chatted a few times over a few days, and then, well, by text, and I think we even spoke in person a few times. And you really won my trust. I couldn't believe that there was someone like you, and that you reached out to me, and there was such a blessed opportunity to save my baby from
Oh.
prison. He was in the he was in the kennel, but it was really, really a difficult time for me,
I
and
know. I
that
know. And my heart was so happy because I've been a practicing Buddhist for many, many decades since my teens. And I understood the gift and the opportunity of you being in Dharamsala to be able to learn more of your skill and your passion. And we also love our dogs. And I knew if my Jackson were somewhere else and I were worried about him being in kennel jail, which, friends, just so you know, when we picked Shadow up, he was happy as could be. He had won over all the kennel ladies. They loved him. They were doting on him. So he was quite happy. And you don't know until you know, you know?
yeah, yeah. So I have to say there have been you, yeah, you're just a really wonderful person, and what a wonderful way to meet. And it's so incredible.
I'm so grateful. I thank my dad. I thank all of our teachers, and we that is that mutual care and respect for you is it is so from our hearts to yours. We absolutely think the world of you, Thomas. It's been a great blessing for us as well to get to sit around the fire together and to connect like this and share your passion and your love here with this group and on this podcast. So you have a class coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's in person in Syracuse at the end of June. And friends, I'll post all the information about the course, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about it? Oh, wait, Christopher, go back to that other beautiful photo. This was I love this picture of Thomas painting.
Mm,
That was the completion of a different Thangka.
yeah. And that's when I was visiting your beautiful land.
Yeah. And there's your paints. There's are all your handmade paints, right? In that little
Correct.
in that
So
lower in the lower left, that little tray.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that painting in particular, I used all natural paints.
Oh,
It was one of the first where I used all natural paints.
so
It's
beautiful.
quite a difficult technique to master.
Mm.
Okay, so the class, yeah, this year I'm doing a class again at Teching Choling Buddhist Center in Manoa, New York. and I did it last year. This year we're painting Tara's face.
Mm,
Well, we're learning to draw and paint Tara's face. Um, and it's for people with not necessarily any experience. So I've hopefully designed a program that will work well for people with absolutely no experience or familiarity with Tibetan art. Last year, it seemed to go really well. I designed a sort of little workbook where each page was kind of step by step. So they had that visual support and reference. Um, and we just kind of did it together. We went step by step through the process as a class, and people say they really loved it. I was really surprised that they just loved it so much, you know. They were very successful and they were able to complete the project in 2.5 days. So that's how long the class is, the course, 2.5 days. This year, we'll be doing the Tara face, which is a little more difficult. It's a step up from the Buddha face.
mhm,
So when we're learning Tibetan iconography, we learn the Buddha first
mhm,
because it's the basic image. Everything else is a variation of the Buddha.
mhm,
So the next thing that we learn is Tara.
mhm.
So this is class 2, and we'll be doing Tara's face, and I think it'll be wonderful. People seem to really love it.
And I love how you described earlier in the conversation that the drawing first and the painting process is both left and right brained, right? It's structural and intuitive. So friends, it's really true. I can say from personal experience, having drawn my own Buddha face once,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
still very proud of this piece because you start out with a grid. You do it in pencil, very light, and so the face is everything is before you get to painting is all proportional, right? You're not freehanding the face, so the eyes are all when we were kids, there were ways you could learn to draw an owl and it would show it in a grid. And if you just drew that shape in each little box, it would make the owl, right? So it's the same with the Buddha's face and with the Tara. So this is where truly uh, com completely brand new artists and of course seasoned can participate in this and really experience I'm not crazy about the word of success, but for lack of a better word, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love. That's why I think this art form is so wonderful because of the step-by-step process, you know. Um for example, like what I found we actually do is um, what I will say is, okay, we have the graph, right? And it's almost like you can say, okay, go over to this line and go up to this line. Now at that point, you start drawing your curve, and the curve goes to this point. So it's almost like you have a place to start and a place to stop, and it's a series of very little tasks that add up, you know, to this beautiful drawing, and it's just so systematic in that way that
Oh,
it's so easy in a sense too. It's a
yeah.
whole new way of looking at things, and it takes a lot. It's a whole new way of seeing, and because you have to imagine, you know, what do I need to draw? Help them visualize the angle and where it goes, and then how do I draw it? What point? So it's like it's totally right brain and left brain and you know visualization combined. Well,
Mm.
step by step, everything is just small little steps. And,
Oh, my creative brain is just going, Thomas. Let's talk at some point soon. I'd love to help you to make a little self-paced series of videos that this could be like, and you could also make an online tutorial of for, yeah, we'll talk. I
yeah,
think
I'd love
really
to do it.
beautiful. That would be really beautiful. So this is coming up at the end of June. It's at a beautiful temple. Manoa is about an hour outside of Ithaca, maybe a little less, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's very doable to travel back and forth for friends that are in the Ithaca, Cortland area.
To host or provide, some, they can host a few people actually in the temple building.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Um, yeah.
Christina, you're going to have to come up from Louisiana to do this. Um, Ariana is asking, do you post any of your paintings on a website or with any stories about each of the paintings and the deities?
Mm. That's a really good question. I do have two websites. Both of them, I've had other websites, and I've just settled on two now. And
Mhm.
basically, they are Facebook pages. So I have one particularly for my artwork, my Tibetan artwork, and it's called Thomas Edwards Tibetan Thangka art, I think. Um, anyway, it's linked to my regular Facebook page, which is just Thomas Edwards. Um, and what I do is I have a file for each painting, and it shows you day by day, and usually several points throughout the day, step by step, what I'm doing. So it
Mm.
shows from the very beginning, each painting, to the very end. And then quite often, if I'm lucky, when the painting arrives in its new home, the owner will take a photograph and then send that to me. So I can kind of have that last picture be my painting settling into its new home. Um,
Uh,
yeah. As far as the stories go, that's a great idea. I would love to do that. Um, I'm, I don't know how I could find the time. I'm very busy all the time, but that is one thing that reminds me, though, I would like to move into teaching online and
yeah.
producing, lessons that I could have available to students because I am getting a lot of requests for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Teaching in person. Let me just say that I work full time on commissions. So it's every day, a full day. So there might be students who want private lessons, and I can give them a few,
Mhm.
but I don't really have the time for individual students. So I want to produce lessons that I can share with the students, and then they can go through them, and I can, contact the students, and we can go over their work. So I can basically coach them
Mhm.
through the lessons.
If somebody wanted to order a commissioned painting from you, let's say someone listening, no pressure, friends, just information. Let's say someone says, "Wow, I really would love to commission Thomas to make a painting, and I don't know what deity I'd want." Do you offer a consultation, or do you have a way that a process for that so someone can?
Sonic, just I think 2 days ago, I found a really good way to address that issue, to answer that question. Um, there's a wonderful podcast on YouTube called Buddha Weekly, and they just recently produced um, a way of figuring out what your yidam is according to your zodiac. So according to the year that you're born, um, and a few other things, there's like three main determinants. And they have a way of, according to the Monlam, I think it's called Monlam, but it's sort of this diagnostic way of charting which deity and which variation of the deity really represents, um, your main helper or your main, like, I don't know, spirit guide or highest reflection in according to your zodiac. So there is a way to do that. There is a protector, and then a Buddha family, and then the main deity. So they can offer like three, the three, basically like the Trinity, which is considered to be like your main helpers throughout your life according to your zodiac. So that's one great way to go about it. Um,
Tom, if you afterwards, would you send me that link and I'll put it in the comments here for people watching the replay?
Absolutely.
Now, is
Um,
it one you sent me the other day that also had your Yidam according to Enneagram, or is that a different link?
I think that's a different link.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Okay.
Um, Kind of like two other ways quickly to answer
Sure,
that question.
sure.
Even the teachers and the lamas say, really, whichever deity, if you have any familiarity, whichever deity you're most attracted to is absolutely the perfect deity for you.
Mm,
Other than that, if you want to practice, then there are particular deities that, maybe a lama or a good teacher could advise you would really complement your spiritual journey.
mm,
Generally speaking, there are different classifications of deities. There are the peaceful deities, there are the fierce deities, and then, there are the protectors. Um, and Within those three classes, there are certain things that each deity is sort of tasked with. Um, that will uh, like if there's something you really like, for example, for general blessing, if you have okay, yeah, if you want to bless, wish someone the blessing of long life and good health. That's a certain classification. There are very specific deities. Um, if you wish, for prosperity and stability financially, there's a classification for that. Um, if you are fearful or anxious or have a lot of stress or anxiety, there's a classification for that. Um, and then, meditation deities like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are just generally like all encompassing, very excellent for blessing and peaceful, giving you, the peaceful sort of uh, experience, Uh,
mm,
also, like blessing a home, like the Thangkas are commissioned for very particular reasons traditionally.
mm,
Like if there's a new birth and you want to bless the child with long life and good health and prosperity, then there's classification of particular figures for that. Um,
mm,
if someone is ill and you wish their suffering to be eased, or if someone has passed on
mm,
recently, there's also particular figures for that.
mm.
Um, and Also romance. If you're looking for a happy, healthy, romantic life, I have a great little story about that very quickly. Actually, I'd love to share
Yeah,
this.
love to hear a romance story. Go for it.
Um, a few years ago, I'm going to say maybe 4 years ago, um, went through a period. I go through periods where I'm attracted and drawn to particular deities and bodhisattvas. At that point, I was interested in the red bodhisattva semi-fierce figures like Vajrayogini. And also, I learned there's red Tara.
Mm,
And so I had become sort of like infatuated with the forms of red Tara.
mm,
And at that same time, I met a new friend and he commissioned a painting and he was going through a divorce
mm,
and he wanted to sort of have some help going through that divorce and the healing.
mm,
And also, he wished for, a healthy, happy relationship in the future. So he actually commissioned a red Tara.
mm,
And by the time I had finished it, he actually, which was a few months later, he actually met this wonderful woman, which he started a relationship with. And eventually, after that, they were soon married. So he
mm.
really met the love of his life and gave this red Torah to her.
Wow.
So he truly feels that the commissioning and the praying, the prayers of red Torah was a very strong help in his romantic aspirations, And
Oh,
he So that was really quite wonderful. So really, it's a matter of what would you like support with in your life? You
Mm.
know, certainly uh, all sorts of figures that can help you, deities and energetic influences that you could bring into your life.
Oh, that's a beautiful story, and thank you for that.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. He still messages me every now and then, and just truly deeply grateful. He really feels that that sort of that painting and like all that went into it, the praying and the sincere aspiration and all of that. He truly believes that that shifted things for his life. You know, and
Mm,
it was quite a dramatic shift. He never
I,
thought he would meet someone,
yeah, I get
then
that.
marry again.
I, I get that. Wow, how beautiful. How beautiful to be used in such a beautiful way, Thomas. Thomas, I want to ask you one last question that I when I remember ask at the end of a conversation with guests on this podcast. This podcast is called the Love Your Life podcast, and it's titled that for a reason, right? That it is our birthright to explore and enjoy and to truly love our lives. And what is it about your path, your passion, your spirituality, that really supports your loving your life in the way that you do?
Hmm. Uh, I would say a couple of different things, actually. It's so supportive and reaffirming that the intrinsic beauty of the images, the not even just the visual beauty, but the emotional beauty or the energetic beauty. Um, It's transformative. It's so influential, at least to me, in how I'm wired. But I find that to many people, that really positively affects their mood and their outlook, and it really affects their life quite often. Um, so for me, it's an affirmation and a validation that my love of beauty, my faith in beauty, is
Mm,
that beauty in itself is so healing and transformative, supportive and uplifting and inspiring that it really, if done just correctly, in a sacred way and in a way that communicates the sacred energies,
mm,
the hope, the love and the peace and the inspiration, that it really does affect people as much as it affects me. I think that it has it has helped me change my life. It's helped me reorient my life. It's helped me attain my higher aspirations and
mm,
accomplish my highest goal. I mean, it really has truly it has created a new life for me. It has become a new life. It has just given me more than I could ever imagine. It's been the blessing and the answer to really all the things that I wanted: community, friendship, growth, transformation, appreciation, income, traveling, and a way of sharing the
mm.
blessing, you know.
Thomas, thank you so much for sharing your life, your heart with us, your wisdom, and your beauty. Thank you. I'm really, really, really appreciate you spending this hour with us in this community. And um, I will put a whole bunch of follow-up links in the chat, friends, and then within the next 24 hours for you. And Thomas, if somebody wanted to connect with you one-on-one, would to talk about the possibility of a commission or and if they have any follow-up questions, is it okay for them to message you on Facebook Messenger? Is that
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
okay?
That it's probably the easiest way to contact me. I do have email, but if you can use Facebook, that's definitely the best way.
Okay. All right.
Uh, yeah,
Well,
and yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, really.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniela. You really have been so wonderful and helpful to me. And I just, I share the merit and the blessing and the aspiration with you and but all that you do. You're incredible. You're absolutely amazing the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I
So,
am
so
I'm so happy to get to share so many people's passions and talent and wisdom and love here in this community and out in the world. Um, Everyone, I was listening to Melissa sharing, I think it was Melissa, no, or was it Raina? I don't know, but two wise, amazing women talking about how, yeah, I think it was Raina today, talking about how everybody has has their genius. And a while ago I was like, I don't really know if I love the word genius. And now I've fallen in love with it because I really get like, oh, we all are wired with our unique talents and gifts, our unique genius.
when
And
I think of the word yes, I think of the word genie. Like there's a genie inside of us, right? With all of that magic, right?
yes, I love that. That's great. That's really great alliteration. So yeah, so there is that genie inside all of us. There is that genius, that brilliance. There's that brilliance within every single one of us. And I was at a retreat with Deepak Chopra many years ago, and he was going over it. It was the very end of the retreat, and he was talking about your unique talents and gifts, right? Your inner genie, your inner genius. And he he was reminding everyone to take time to reflect back in their childhood. You know, what this may not you not everyone may find their thing this way. And many people did reconnect with what was it in your childhood that you could do that you would just lose all sense of time. You were just so it was just a unique love of yours. And there,
Mhm.
he told this story. He said there was one woman who couldn't at the end of the retreat just couldn't find her unique genius, her inner genie, her unique talent and gift. And he said, "Well, come on. Now there had to be there was something in your childhood that you were uniquely good at and you uniquely loved." She said, "Okay. Well, I when I was little, I could put my hand in the mouth of any dog." And he said, "Great. Go home. This was a great retreat and just you found it." And she's like, "What am I supposed to do with that?" So she goes home, and a week later, she's watching the news, eating dinner, and she sees a news report is a helicopter live feed from a helicopter over a compound with dogs. And the reporter was talking about how these were wild dogs and they needed to be euthanized, and even the the people whose job it was to do that couldn't get near them because they were too ferocious. And she felt that inner stirring. She felt her hand, the impulse, move her hand to her car keys. She got in the car because this was only 20 minutes away. She drives there. Now, you probably can guess the outcome of the story.
Mm.
She was the one who could put her hand in the mouth of any dogs. And these dogs were treated and raised in a way to there like gambling was involved and there were dog fights and many had broken teeth and abscesses. So she could give them all their medication. They all got rehabilitated.
Oh my gosh.
And that became the next chapter of the fulfillment of her life, where she was in the field of rescuing dogs that others couldn't attend to. So that was a long answer to your statement of it's a great joy for all of us to be here in community together, in friendship, in spiritual friendship and sangha to lift one another up and to encourage one another to connect, lean in deeper, lean into your own beauty, lean into what you uniquely love, and to trust that path to lead you. We don't get shown right away. Ah, you can put your hand in the mouth of dogs. Here's your prosperous outcome. It doesn't work that way, right? It's like there's the when you said the faith and beauty and the beauty and faith, right? There's that is really powerful. There is we have to test and trust the process of what we uniquely love. What can you get obsessed about and lost in? And it will lead you. It will. And it doesn't do it right away. It doesn't give you the great outcome right away. So you feel safe. It's going to feel like a risk every step of the way.
So
Yeah.
it's been such a blessing to me to really believe in this opportunity, this path, and like I say, it really people have just really shown that they appreciate and really admire and just they get just as excited about it as I do. You know what I mean? And they see the value of it, and that's just amazing to me. And it's just really become a way of a whole new life for me, really, you know. And I'm just so thankful that I probably one of the greatest things is I wish to share inspiration. I want these images are inspirational and supportive, and I want something there, a little face shining on the wall with a Buddha smile, always saying, I'm here, we're here.
You're here, and I'm a reflection of your true inherent nature.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I am so thankful for all those who have loved you into being, Thomas, all of your, from the encyclopedias to the person who brought you the National Geographics to your beautiful sister Mary, who's here with us in real time. Mary.
Uh, amen.
And just for everyone who has been a part of your journey, and thank you for being a part of our collective journey here in the Great Energy community.
Thank you so much.
We love you, Thomas, and I look forward to chatting again, having you on again, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, good night, Shadow. We love you. Bye for now. Good night,
Bye.
friends.